everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting the Warmaster himself, Horus Ascended. Yes, this is the new version of Horus, sent to me early by Games Workshop to paint up and review for all of you. And, well, the reviews are in. It's a fantastic new model, and it absolutely blows the old one out of the water. He is enormous. Look at the size of him. Let me just grab Reikland Orange for size. You can see he's almost tiny in comparison. Put them at the same kind of distance. Now, he has been primed in grey here, and he's been built into some sub-assemblies. Not the ones you're thinking. No, he's been built like this. So there's his scenic base. There's his additional bit of rock just there, and there's Horus himself. So we're going to be painting Horus, as we do with all of these Primarch tutorials. We're going to be painting Horus, and then we will paint all of the base at the same time, and then we will have a finished Primarch on our hands. So all that's left to do is to grab our paints, grab our brushes, and then get started. So the place we're going to start with on Horus is on all of his black armor, and the color we're going to be using for this is Black Legion. Now, the best thing to do here is to just start down here on the foot and work your way up the model, just being nice and methodical as you go along. Picking out all of the areas that you want to be black, excluding his shoulder pad just there. That's going to be a different color. And you might think there's quite a lot of black here, but there actually isn't tons. There's a lot of gold trim, as is only right and proper for a Primarch, as is only right and proper for the Warmaster. So with that Black Legion applied all over the way around, as you can see, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to paint in all of the gold details across his armour. Don't worry too much about Worldbreaker or anything like that. We're just looking to get the majority of Horus himself done before we move on, just to keep painting something like this nice and manageable. And there's going to be a lot of gold. So again, just take your time, work your way around. And do check out the product photography to help you. Or you can just wait until the next clip. So with that Retributor Armour applied all the way around, as you can see, there's a whole lot of gold. And we're still not done with the gold. There is a lot more to do. However, we're just focusing on Horus's body at the moment. But what we're going to do next is we're going to take some Terradon Turquoise. Now you might have to do a bit of gold correcting here. And we're going to use this Terradon Turquoise on his shoulder pad. Just here. Like that. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher, and we're going to apply this to the pistons in his armour. So we got them on his legs. Like that. And we've got some on there on the front. We're going to apply this over the top of this little bit of jewellery. Down there. And we're going to apply this to the talon of Horus. These kind of remaining sections on that. So with all of that Leadbelcher applied, I've actually applied it to all of the studs, because looking at the product photography, it turns out they are silver as well. So what we're going to do, now that that is out of the way, is we're going to take some Nuln Oil, and we're now going to use this to shade everywhere that we've just painted. So all the gold, all of the black, and all of the silver, as well as that Terradon Turquoise just there on the shoulder pad. And after so much precision work with the gold, it's nice to get a little bit messy. So with that now done, we're then going to take some Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to use this to shade just the gold. I know we've already done the Nuln Oil, but this is going to give us a really nice deep kind of rosiness to it. When combined with the Nuln Oil. And with that now done, we're then going to take some Targor Rageshade. I'm going to apply this over the top of the silver details. I'll only need to do this over the kind of more detailed ones. We won't need to do this over the top of the studs, for example. Just going to add just a little bit of colour. So with all three of our shades applied to the armour and the metallics that we have on there so far, there are more metallics to come later, but don't worry about those for now, because what we are going to do is going to continue working on the really large areas. And the next one of those is going to be that cape. It's huge, and it's a massively impactful part of the miniature. And of course we're waiting for all of those shades to dry, but for now they're looking awesome, doing a lot of hard work, and he's looking fantastic. So we are going to use some Baal Red now, And what we're going to do is we're going to apply this all over the inside and the outside of the cape. I'm starting here on the inside because, well, I always start on the outside, and I thought, for a change, let's just do this on the inside. They'll never see this coming. Just whilst we're waiting for all that Baal Red to dry on all of the cloak, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red, just in the interest of time. I'm going to apply this over the top of all of his paturges and leather details. He's got a couple of straps here and there. There aren't very many. There's one or two around the knife scabbard. So we're just going to pick all of this out. So with both of those reds applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to shade them both. And the colour we're going to be using to do that is Agrax Earthshade. So we're just going to load up our brush here. I'm going to pick a place to start. I'm going to start on the inside of the cloak once more. So with that Agrax Earthshade all applied to all of the red details, it's still drying at the moment, so that means we're going to move on. And what we're going to move on to is the wolf pelt on his back. Now the colour we're going to be using for this is Ratling Grime. And we're just going to be applying this all over the top of all of the fur. So with that Ratling Grime all applied, what we're now going to do is going to move on because we're waiting for it to dry and it will take a little while. So we're going to paint the eyes of Horus next, and we've got 6 of them in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And to do this, we're going to be using 2 colours. We're going to be using Iyanden Yellow and Gryph-Hound Orange. And what we're going to do is we're going to start by taking some Iyanden Yellow, and we're going to apply this all over the eye. So we're going to start with this one down here. I'm just going to add it in like that. Then we're going to wash the brush, grab a little bit of Gryph-Hound Orange, and then we're just going to go over it like that. Giving you this kind of lovely sort of amber effect. And then we go and take a little bit more Iyanden Yellow just around the middle of the eye, around the pupil, Some lovely sculpted details here. Just going to add a little bit more of that Iyanden Yellow, like that. Grab a little bit more Iyanden Yellow here. Just going to add it just there. Like so. I'm going to do this across all of the Eyes of Horus. And so with that done, we're then just going to take a teeny tiny amount of Fuegan Orange. I'm going to use this to shade over the top of the eyes. And this will really kind of soften out any blends. And it'll really move those two colours together. So with that done, just to finish off all of those Eyes of Horus, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over the top of the pupils. It's amazing just how much that makes them pop. So with that done, we can now start working on all these details that we've already painted to take them to the next level before we start finishing off Horus. And well, what we're going to do is we're going to start with the cloak. Now, the colour we're going to be using first for this is Mephiston Red. And we've got it thinned down a little bit more than normal. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to start relayering this over the top of the flats of the folds. Just letting that Agrax Earthshade sit in the recesses. And what this will do is it will help you mask out any inconsistencies as well as start the long process of brightening up the cape. So with that done, you should now have this glorious red. Now what we're going to do is we're going to brighten it up even further. We're going to do this by making a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Mephiston Red and Evil Sunz Scarlet. And we're going to apply this again over the fold, kind of flat areas of the folds, and we're going to do it a lot narrower this time. So we're just going to kind of keep towards the tops of these folds in the cloak. And go like that. And then same again over on the next one. Like so. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 2-to-1 mix of Wild Rider Red and Mephiston Red, and we're going to do this again, but just even narrower. So now we're looking at kind of that much of this fold just here. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Mephiston Red and Fire Dragon Bright. We're going to use this to kind of, as our like kind of highlight along the sharpest folds. Just like this. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Fire Dragon Bright and we're going to apply this to the sharpest points on the cloak. So we're just going to be picking out corners and the absolute apex of any of the folds in the cloak. So for example, just here, just got a wee little line. Like that sort of thing. And so with that Fire Dragon Bright applied to those areas, as you can see, what we're going to do now is we're going to finish it off by adding a little glaze, and it's going to be a roughly 4 parts contrast medium to 1 part Blood Angel's Red mix. And we're just going to apply this over the top now of all of our cloak, everywhere that we've just highlighted and layered. It's just going to tie it all together. So with that Blood Angel's Red glaze all applied, as you can see, the cloak is looking absolutely fantastic. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour and we're going to use this to paint in the gold design on the cloak. So with that done, I'm just going to leave it to dry just for the moment, but it already looks pretty fantastic. I'm not even sure if we're going to do too much shading to it, but what we're going to do is we're going to take some Basilicanum Grey, and on our wolf pelt up here, we're just going to add some little patches of it. Not all over, just kind of going to add this sort of around there, like that. A little bit of it to around here. Going to bring it down over the top of the face. So with that Basilicanum Grey applied just before we do our highlights on it, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this over the claws. Like that. And so with that Black Legion applied, we then take some Skeleton Horde and we apply this over the top of the teeth and the bottom lip. Well, top lip of the wolf. Like that. So with that Skeleton Horde applied to the teeth, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Karak Stone and we're going to dry brush this over the top of the wolf's pelt. And we're going to go all over here. Including over the top of the claws and the face. So with that done, we are going to add a little bit of shading to the gold on the cloak, and that's going to be some Reikland Fleshshade. What we're going to do is just going to take small amounts of this and apply this over the top. Just add a little bit of colour in there, just take a little bit of the shine off, but not too much. It already looks really good. So with that Reikland Fleshshade applied, we're then going to take a very tiny dot of Yriel Yellow and we're going to apply this on the wolf's eye. Like that. And like that. Very, very, very tiny. And then next up, we're going to take some Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to highlight the teeth. Like that. So with that, the pelt is finished and the cloak is very, very nearly finished. There's just a couple of little metallic highlights to do on it, but we're going to save those until we do the rest of the gold. But before we do that, we're now just going to rejoin that base coating train. And the colour we're going to use next is Iron Warriors. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this to paint in kind of all of our remaining silver details. So this is going to include areas such as the chain around here on the back. Like that. It's going to include areas on the Worldbreaker, such as the flat sections between that banding. Like that. And then we've got the kind of areas inside the mace. Around there, that sort of thing. Additionally, we have these spikes up here. We've got this little gizmo. We've got the tubes. Cables, they're not tubes. On his back and around his face. Or rather, around his head. So with all that Iron Warriors applied, we're then going to take some Fyreslayer Flesh and we're going to apply this over the top of Horus's face. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Cygor Brown and I'm going to apply this over the top of the weapon sheath and the handle of the blade. So with that Cygor Brown applied to the weapon, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Skeleton Horde and we're going to apply this over the top of this skull. Just here. Like that. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Dreadful Visage and we're going to plate this over the top of the heads that still have skin. So we've got one here. Like that. And then we've got two back here as well. There's one hiding in there. And so with Dreadful Visage all applied, we then take some Black Templar and we're going to apply this over the top of the hair on all of these grisly trophies. Like that. And we're going to apply this to the belt section on the ammo. This is essentially just going to go all the way down. Doesn't matter too much if you get this all over. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour. And we're going to apply this to all of our remaining details. So with that done, we now have all of our base coats now on our Horus Ascended here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some of the last bits of shading. Now the first one we're going to add is Berserker Bloodshade, and we're going to apply this over the top of all of our faces. So we've got our Grizzly trophies. Down here. Well, there's just one trophy down here. Like that. We've got the ones on the back. And of course, we've got the main man himself. And we are going to apply Berserker Bloodshade over his face as well. And with that done, just like before, we're going to take some Nuln Oil and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the silver and all of the gold. With that Nuln Oil applied all over, what we're then going to do is take some Reikland Fleshshade, and we're going to use this to add a little bit of extra rosiness over the top of all the gold details. So with that done, Horus is now at what I would call a war hipster battle ready. He's looking amazing already, but we're not going to leave him there. No, what we're going to do is take him to the next level. I'm going to do this by adding some highlights now. The first one we're going to add is a roughly 2 parts Stormhost Silver to 1 part Retributor Armour mix. And we're going to be using this to highlight all of the gold. And what we just want to do here now is pick out all the edges. This is going to take a while now, because of the amount of gold that we have. So just take your time, pick a place to start and work your way on from there. You also want to pick out any rivets within the gold. So with all of that gold highlighted, as you can see, he's taken a huge leap forward. Done a little bit of highlighting there on the back and on the inside of the cape. My goodness me. Just how much does that absolutely make him leap off the screen? Not that you'd want that. Anyway, what we're going to do is going to move on just for the moment. We're not going to finish the highlighting of the gold, because what we need to do first is we need to take some thinned down Ironbreaker, and we need to use this to highlight all of the silver. So this is including the areas that we did with Leadbelcher and the areas that we did with Iron Warriors. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Stormhost Silver and we're going to use this on the sharpest points of both the silver details and the gold details. Just as our little sort of spot highlight. Just like this. So with that Stormhost Silver applied to all the sharpest points, all of our metallics are now finished, and I'm sure you'll agree, Horus is looking fantastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep upping the ante here, and we're going to start work on all of the smooth black details. This is going to be areas such as, well, it's the armor. And the color we're going to be using to highlight this first is Dark Reaper. We just want to pick out all the edges here. And the only place you don't want to do any highlights is in here. It's going to be different. But otherwise, you want to add these highlights to all of the smooth black, so armor and the bolt casing on the Talon of Horus. Just like this. You just want to take your time here. So with that Dark Reaper all applied to all of our armor and the bolt casing, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Russ Grey. I'm going to add this as a much narrower highlight. So we're not going to do the entire thing, but we're going to do about 2/3 of each of these edges. So for example, at the top here, I'm going to come down around there. I'm going to come down to around about there, like that. I'm also just going to pick out the inside tracks here. Like that sort of thing. And with that done, we're then going to take a little bit of Fenrisian Grey. I'm going to apply this as our little spot highlight to the sharpest points on the black armor. So with that done, all of our smooth, clean black details are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to highlight our softer black details. It's going to be areas like these cables here on his chest. And the soft joints in his armor. Just like this sort of thing. So with that done, all of the black details are now finished. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Evil Sunz Scarlet. We're going to use this to highlight our red leather. So with that done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Fire Dragon Bright. I'm going to add this to the sharpest parts of the baturges in the red leather. However, what we're also going to do with the Fire Dragon Bright is we're going to use this to highlight the black in here. So this is the bit that we left before. Just like that sort of thing. And so with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Terror's Red. We're going to apply this over the black in there and over the top of that Fire Dragon Bright that we just added. And so with that now done, we then take some Fire Dragon Bright once again. We add this as our little spot highlight. To the sharpest edges and corners. With our spot highlight applied, we then take Fire Dragon Bright once again, only this time we thin it down with like 2 or 3 parts water to make it nice and runny. And we're basically going to drop this into the recesses. And so just to finish off that orange glow around his face, we then take some Gryph-Hound Orange and we apply this all over. So with that done, it is now time to work on Horus's face. So what we're going to do first is we're going to take some thinned down Cadian Flesh Tone and we're going to apply this over the top of all of his skin, just avoiding any of the recesses. So with that Cadian Flesh Tone all applied, we then take some Kislev Flesh and we're going to use this to start highlighting picking out all of the edges and raise details in his face. So with that Kislev flesh applied, we then take some flayed one flesh and we're going to add this to the sharpest points. So we're picking out areas such as the bridge of his nose, his brow, his cheekbones, as well as these cable scars on his head. That sort of thing. So with that now done, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Black Legion, a really small amount of this, and we're going to apply this over the top of his teeth and his eyeballs. So with that Black Legion applied, we're then going to take a teeny tiny dot of Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to pick out his teeth. And we're going to have a little tiny dot of this in the corner of each of his eyes. So with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Evil Sunz Scarlet. I'm going to very carefully apply this over the top of this little tube. Going down Horus's nose, like so. After applying that Evil Sunz Scarlet, Horus's face is now done, and Horus himself is very nearly finished. We've just got one or two things left to do, and one of those is to take some Black Templar and use this to basically just paint in any of the dead ones' sort of eyes. And so with that Black Templar applied to those dead faces, eyes, all that remains is to take some Flesh Terror's Red. And we're going to apply this over the top of the little lenses. Up here. And to the gems on his scabbard. So with the main man himself now finished, he's looking absolutely fantastic. Now, what we have to do is that big old scenic base, and that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're just going to pop him out and the back part, because we don't need that for now. And what we're going to do is we're just going to focus on here, and then anything that we do on here that is similar on the kind of additional piece here and on Horus's base, we'll call out as and when it comes up. But for now, we're just going to focus on this bit here, like that. So the place we're going to start is with all of the bones, because that's where the majority of this base is. So the colour we're going to be using for this is Skeleton Horde, rather unsurprisingly. And we're just going to liberally coat this on to every single one of the bits of bone. There's a lot of bones. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some black Templar and we're going to apply this over the top of any dirt. And there's little kind of patches of it, but it is mostly bones. It's a lot of bones. It's got a little tiny bit of dirt there. Got some under here. Like that. We've got some down here. Like that. And I don't think there's any more on here. We can actually just add a little bit of black Templar just here. So with that applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Basilicanum Grey and we're going to apply this over the top of all of the fallen stonework. So we've got some just here. So with that Basilicanum Grey all applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to paint in all of the armour that is scattered around, excluding this guy over here just for the moment. And the colour we're going to be using for this is Blood Angel's Red. Now on the box art they've used green, and I'm not entirely sure what that's supposed to be. Maybe some Sons of Horus. But what we're going to do is we're going to do Blood Angel's Red because, well, for me it just makes sense that you would be striding over a pile of corpses of blood angels. So it's a bit of a departure from the box art. You'll forgive me, I'm sure, in time. So with all of that Blood Angel's Red applied, what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Black Legion and we're going to apply this to areas such as soft joints in all of the armor. We're going to apply it to any of the kind of ribbed cables that you can see scattered around the model. So we've got a couple just here. There's another one tucked away in there. We're going to apply this Black Legion over the hair on this skull. like so. We're going to pop it in here, in the leg. We've got a little bit of soft joint just there and around here. And what we're also going to do with this Black Legion is going to apply this over the chest plate on our other corpse that we haven't painted yet. Just here. As well as any other details that you want to be black. So with that Black Legion all applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Iron Warriors and we're going to be coating this over the majority of the metallic details. So we've got areas such as like these kind of struts and things. We've got some pipes scattered around. For example, we've just got a couple just there. We've got one here as well. We're going to be applying this to any of the metallic details on the corpses. There are going to be a few gold details. They are blood angels after all, such as the trim on this shoulder pad here. And we're going to be applying this to the metallic details on our second corpse as well. So with that all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Runelord brass and we're going to be using this to make our gold details as well as our kind of other little bits and bobs. And this is because we want this to be a little bit weathered, so not like a nice bright lovely gold, but we're going to go for a slightly darker, slightly aged type thing. So we're pretty much applying this over all of our remaining details. So with that done, here's a quick update for you on how Horus is looking on his base. He's looking pretty fantastic. Now, you may have noticed that we haven't applied any paint just here on the white of the corpse here. I think that's a solar auxilia, but there's a reason for that. And the reason for that is that we're going to be shading it with Agrax Earthshade, but we're going to be shading a lot of things with Agrax Earthshade, so we're going to do it all at once. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that Agrax Earthshade on our brush and we're going to start shading all of the silver, all of the brass, like this. We can also shade the occasional bit of skeleton here just to kind of break it up. So I'll just do this little bit of brass here. So what we can do, for example, is we can shade this one here. We can shade around here, just kind of be a little bit haphazard with it. ultimately at this point it kind of doesn't really matter about being particularly neat. Can also add little patches of shade to any of the stonework and just do the whole thing like that. And as mentioned, we're going to apply this over the top of the grey sear. Just like this. So with that Agrax Earthshade applied to all of those details, believe it or not, we are very nearly there. What we're going to do now is we're going to take a dry brush of Tyrant's Skull and we're going to do this over the top of the entirety of the base. So with that done, as you can see, the model has taken a huge, massive leap forward, and this is him all together once again. And we've actually just got one last thing left to do, and that is to take some Dark Angel's Green and apply this to the eyelens on this helmet. Just like that. And then you just got to do the rim of your base. So with the scenic base complete, Abaddon Black applied to the rim of the base, Horus Ascended is now finished. Well, Horus has now ascended into a finished state. Maybe that would be a more accurate thing to say, but this model is absolutely fantastic. It absolutely smokes the old one. I think I've already said that in this video, but I think it just looks incredible, and I cannot wait to see any more of the Ascended Primarchs. They are going to be awesome if this is but the baseline standard. Oh, what a time to be alive. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you could become a YouTube member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these amazing, wonderful people have done. And if you really like this video or you just want to shoot me some support, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.